lot of them are also having their parents or grandparents, if they live in that city, come and participate in programming. We're seeing that. So it happens, but it happens organically more than like Jewish learning programs, which is a mandate from us as an organization. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty obvious that Jewish communities blessed here locally and then nationally with some very generous and for-profit, really visionaries. And so, you know, they've created this environment for the younger generation where we can get subsidized dinners, where we can have free trips to Israel, where we can spend a weeknight or a weekend totally for free. And so I guess we're targeting this generation that everyone labels as the about me generation, right? And so what do we do as a community to really combat that entitlement philosophy? And how do we make that transition from, you know, I'm actually receiving then to when I can start giving back to the community?
Yeah. That's going to be a major question that comes up because, right, it goes from being not just free, forget free, it's like you said, trips places, this and that, to cost over $1,000 to be a member of a synagogue. Well, you know, I'll pass on that, you know, because they should be paying me. If I'm gonna show up, then that, you know, and so one thing I think has to do with transparency. For Moishe House, when we do our North American conference and bring all the residents together, one of the sessions that we do is going through the budget line by line. We did that last year. We had over 75% of the residents donate to Moishe House, and that's in addition to all the work that they're doing. You know, we calculated out like the rent subsidy compared to the average hours it takes, and it's not a great job. You know, you're getting paid less than $2 an hour. So, but part of that for us was also changing the model from free rent to subsidized rent based upon how much you're doing. I think it is a major issue, and I think transparency is the biggest vehicle for combating that, so people can really see that here's why a synagogue dues are what they are, and those dues don't even cover our actual costs. We still have to fundraise for it. But then it's also going to take a real gut check from those organizations when these people in their 20s say, why is a rabbi making over $200,000 a year? God, you know, I'm not making, you know, someone's asking me to donate when they're making 4 or 5 times as much as me. So I think that there is going to be some tension there, because what's happened is the leadership of a lot of organizations have also become really peers and friends with the board and the donors, and those peers and friends want to make sure they're taking care of the leadership. But then the folks that aren't in that little circle are going to look at it and say, you know, that's not for me. Why would I don't want that? That's not where I want to contribute. You know, I want it to go directly towards something. So I think transparency, but then also you're going to have to be open to the fact that there's going to be some critiques, because they're not part of the process that has led to the budgets becoming high. But I think with education and transparency, people will get it. And if they don't get it, if you can show it to them and they look at it and they're not, right, then I think you also have to look at ourselves too, I mean, including Moishe House, and saying, like, you know, we have to be able to justify every single line item because we're asking them to contribute to it.
One last question. You get to choose.
I don't want to end by losing a friend, so
Go for it.
I'll leave half my time for you. You know, David, it's very interesting. It seems to me, I've been sitting here thinking about what lessons we can learn from the success of Moishe House that we can really take and expand, because part of what we're doing here is the Millstone Institute is really about Jewish leadership, and while we're focusing on, you know, this target, you know, demographic segment, I'm thinking about how we expand it, kind of go to Jane's question and somewhat to JJ's question as well. And when I think about it, a lot of what you say resonates to what we were doing at Hillel. You know, Pam and I have been on the board for years. We've been St. Louis Hillel for years ago, about saying, hey, it's not about bringing people to the Hillel house. It's about taking Jewish programming to where the Jewish students are and what they want to do. And it seems to me that one of the reasons why Moishe House here and other places has been so successful is because there's not a top-down approach of saying, you must do this, you must come to Kol Nidre services at 8 o'clock at night. But what you're saying is we need to find out what people in those communities want to do and facilitate them doing it and however they want to do it and encourage that growth. And I think one of the things I heard from you kind of resonates from the business world as well is that these large market segments no longer work. You can't target someone between 22 and 45. You can't target somebody, the adult population. If you look at how, television, studios are now looking at marketing their ads, they look at certain demographics which are much tighter than we in the Jewish community have usually used. And I think that if we, as leaders in the community, whatever age group we're in, we look at our market segments differently than we have in the past, and if we try to allow the organic programming to evolve in the way that the participants want, as opposed to dictating how they should look, I think we'll all be much more effective. I mean, that's what I'm hearing from.
Well, the question I would ask is, one is for the leadership development for the Millstone Institute. One, is there any of the budget that's put aside for when people have ideas that they want to run with? That there's small amounts that they have and can tap into to run with? I don't know the answer to that. And also, when you're creating leadership development, did you also go to Moishe House and Next Door and sit down and say, we want to support your development as leaders? What is it? What is it that we can be doing to support your leadership development? Or was it all created outside of that, and then we're recruiting them to be developed into leaders, when maybe we're developing them into the positions that we're in right now? So again, I just think it's a different, I think there's a couple little things that can happen. I'm working with a foundation in San Diego that is interested in leadership development. The first thing I said to them is, contact St. Louis, because they're the only ones I know doing it. But they're setting up a fund so that they can support, and I was very clear, don't give 100% of funding, but give partial for people to go from San Diego